The voicemail came in at 11:47 on a Tuesday morning, and I almost didn't listen to it. I was already running late. My suitcase was open on the bed, half packed, my toiletry bag sitting on top of the dresser where I'd left it the night before when I'd been too tired to finish. My aunt had called the day before to confirm I was coming up for the weekend. Her voice warm and eager in a way that I should have recognized, because she only ever sounds like that when she wants something from me. But I was already in the middle of pulling a sweater off its hanger when my phone buzzed with a voicemail notification. The name on the screen stopped me cold. Gretchen Voss, my accountant. Gretchen does not call me. We email. We have always emailed. She is a woman of spreadsheets and tracked changes in PDFs with digital signatures, not phone calls on random Tuesday mornings. I stood there, with the sweater half dragged off the hanger, and I pressed play. Isabel, don't get in that car. I need you to call me right now. Do not go to Ashford. Something is very wrong. Call me. Her voice was clipped and quiet. The kind of quiet that means the person is trying not to panic and almost failing. I set the sweater down on the bed, very carefully, like it was made of something breakable. Then my aunt texted me. Did you leave yet? We're all so excited to see you, sweetheart. A little heart emoji at the end. She only uses emojis when she's performing warmth rather than feeling it. I called Gretchen back before I even sat down. She picked up on the first ring. Isabel. She exhaled. Okay, I need to tell you some things, and I need you to listen without interrupting me because we may not have a lot of time. Tell me, 3 weeks ago, your cousin reached out to my office. She told my assistant she was your emergency contact and that you had been hospitalized and needed your financial records compiled urgently for. I was not hospitalized 3 weeks ago. I know that now. My assistant didn't flag it to me right away. By the time I found out and started digging, I found something else. She took a breath. Your aunt filed paperwork last month with the county court. She's petitioning for financial conservatorship over you. She claims you're showing signs of cognitive instability, that you've been making erratic financial decisions, that you're unable to manage your own affairs. The room got very still. She submitted 2 supporting declarations, one from a physician I cannot find any active license records for, one from your cousin. I sat down on the edge of the bed. My suitcase was open next to me. My clothes folded in neat little rows, the way I always pack because my mother taught me to, because she said it saves space, and it does. It saves space. I was thinking about this absolutely insane detail while the floor was dropping out from under me. Isabel, are you still there? Yeah, I said. I'm here. The timing is not a coincidence. You turn 27 next month. That's when the remainder of your mother's estate fully transfers to you. The property in Vermont, the investment accounts. Everything she left in that secondary trust. If your aunt secures conservatorship before that date, she controls all of it. Indefinitely. I had believed, genuinely, truly believed, that the last 2 years of my life had just been hard, that I was overwhelmed and scattered, and prone to losing things the way some people are, just prone to losing things. My car registration, that I was certain I'd renewed, but apparently hadn't. The appointment with my mother's estate lawyer that I'd missed because somehow the calendar reminder had never gone off. The credit card statement that went to my old address even though I'd updated everything. Or I thought I had, or maybe I hadn't. Maybe I really was losing my mind a little. Maybe my aunt was right to be worried. She wasn't worried. She was engineering it. Every time I'd called her frustrated, every time I'd said I don't know what's wrong with me, I keep dropping things, she had listened with that particular quality of patient concern that I now understand was satisfaction dressed in sympathy. She would say, "Oh, sweetheart, you've been through so much since your mom died. It's grief. It's normal. We're here for you." And I had been grateful. I had been so genuinely, humiliatingly grateful. My mother died 18 months ago. She left me more than I expected, because she had always been quietly careful with money. In a way I didn't fully understand until after she was gone. My aunt had been at the funeral, in the front row. She had helped me sort through my mother's things. She had been cataloging, not grieving. I just didn't know it yet. What do? I asked Gretchen. You do not get in that car. Whatever she's planning for this weekend, but if I don't go she'll just try something else. She knows where I live. She has a key to my building because I gave her one after my mom died, because I was scared to be alone and she offered and I said yes. Gretchen was quiet for a moment. Then you go, she said slowly, but you don't go as the person she thinks you are. I hung up. I sat on the edge of the bed for exactly 4 minutes. I know it was 4 minutes because I watched the clock on my phone and I made myself breathe and I made myself think instead of feel, because feeling was going to have to wait. There was a very specific kind of cold that had settled into my chest, not the shaking, spiraling cold of panic, but something harder. Something that had edges. I thought about my mother. I thought about her handwriting on the trust documents, the way she'd signed her name in the same looping script she'd used my whole life, on birthday cards and permission slips. I thought about how she'd told me, in the last few months when she knew, "You're going to be okay. You're stronger than you think you are. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." I stood up. I finished packing. But I added some things that weren't on the original list. My first stop was my doctor's office. I called ahead, explained I needed an urgent appointment, paid the same-day fee without blinking. 40 minutes later I walked out with a signed letter on official letterhead. Full cognitive evaluation, clean results, dated and time-stamped. oriented, lucid, no indicators of impairment. I folded it and put it in the interior zipper pocket of my bag. My second stop was a print shop, where I printed the documents Gretchen had emailed me, the conservatorship filing, the declaration from the unlicensed physician, my cousin's supporting statement. I read my cousin's words in the parking lot, and had to remind myself to breathe. She had described me as increasingly unable to manage daily responsibilities, and expressing paranoid ideation regarding our family's intentions. She had written that she was deeply concerned, and that intervention was necessary for Isabel's own well-being. My cousin, who I had taught to ride a bike. My cousin who used to sleep in my bed during thunderstorms when we were little because she was afraid and I wasn't. My cousin, who had apparently decided that whatever my aunt was offering her was worth more than 20 years of the two of us. I put the papers back in the envelope. I got back in my car. Before I pulled out of the parking lot, I made one more call. Not to my cousin. I wasn't ready for that, and honestly she had already made her choice and I had to let that be what it was. I called my neighbor Petra. She was in her 60s, a retired paralegal who had become my unofficial emergency contact after my mother died, because she was the kind of person who noticed things and showed up and didn't make a fuss about it. She picked up on the second ring. "I need a favor," I said. "And I need you not to ask me too many questions right now because I'm trying to stay calm. Tell me what you need. I'm going to send you some documents. If you don't hear from me by Sunday morning, I need you to take them to Gretchen Voss. Her number's in the email, and I need you to call the county clerk's office and tell them you have evidence of fraud in a conservatorship filing." A short pause. "Isabel, I know, are you in danger?" "I don't think so. I think I'm actually the least endangered person in this situation, if I do this right." I sounded more certain than I felt, but sometimes that's the same thing. I just need a backup. Someone who knows where I am, and what I know. I'll have my phone on all weekend. Thank you, Petra. The drive to Ashford took 2 hours. I've made it 100 times. It's the kind of drive that used to feel like coming home. The highway narrowing into 2-lane roads. The way the trees close in around you the further north you get. The particular smell of pine and cold lake air when you roll the window down. My aunt's house is on the water. Huge old timber frame thing that my grandparents built in the 1970s. That my mother and her sister grew up in. That my mother always said should have been split equally between the two of them. But somehow never was. I didn't know until after the will was read that my mother had quietly bought out her own share of the property decades ago. That she had paid her sister fair market value, and gotten a signed agreement, and kept the paperwork in a fireproof box in her closet, and that the Vermont property now belonged entirely to me. My aunt had known this was coming for years. She'd just spent the last 18 months building her case. I pulled into the long gravel driveway just after 4 in the afternoon. The house looked the same as always, lights warm in the windows, smoke from the chimney. My aunt's car and my cousin's car both parked out front. A third car I didn't recognize, parked slightly apart from the others near the side of the house. Older model sedan, nothing distinctive. Rental plates. I sat in my car for a moment with the engine off. Then I got out and walked up the porch steps and knocked on my own family's door. My aunt opened it before I'd finished knocking. She was wearing a soft blue cardigan and she had her hair done, and she smiled at me with all her teeth and said, "Isabel, you made it. We were starting to worry about you," and reached out to hug me with the specific quality of embrace that searches you without appearing to. "The traffic was fine," I said. "The drive was beautiful. Actually, come in, come in. You look tired, sweetheart. Are you sleeping?" "I'm great," I said, and I smiled at her. I made it reach my eyes. I have spent 27 years learning her performance. She had no idea I'd been studying. The house was warm, and it smelled like something cooking, and my cousin was in the living room, and she looked up when I came in, and something crossed her face. Not quite guilt, but something adjacent to it, something she covered over very quickly with a smile. I smiled back. I went over and hugged her. I felt her go slightly rigid and then deliberately relax. "So good to see you," I said, and I meant it, in a complicated way that I don't have a clean word for. The man was introduced over dinner. My aunt did it casually, the way you do when you've rehearsed the casual. She said he was an old colleague of my uncle's. My uncle who'd been dead for 6 years. Who happened to be in the area and had joined them for the weekend. He was maybe 60, with a firm handshake and eyes that were doing something different from the rest of his face. Evaluating. The word for what he was doing was assessing. He said his name was Dr. Whitmore. I said it was nice to meet him. My aunt said, over salad, that she'd been so worried about me lately. That she'd noticed I'd seemed scattered. That she'd heard from my cousin that I'd been having a hard time. Had I talked to anyone? A professional? She said it with such gentle, seamless concern that if I hadn't known, I would have believed her completely. She was very good. She had been doing this for a long time. I told her I'd been better lately. That I felt clearer than I had in a long time, actually. She glanced at the doctor. After dinner she brought out wine. She poured a glass and set it in front of me and said, "You always love this one," and touched my shoulder in that particular way she has. 2 fingers, a brief squeeze, the physical vocabulary of intimate concern. I looked at the glass. The wine was a dark red and it caught the candlelight and I thought, there it is. "I'm okay," I said. "Actually, I have a little bit of a headache. Could I just get some water?" A flicker, very fast. She said, of course, and went to the kitchen. My cousin was looking at the table. I looked at her. I waited until she looked up. When she did, I held her gaze for a long moment, and I said nothing, and I watched something in her face shift. Something crumple, very slightly, at the edges. She looked away first. When my aunt came back with the water, Dr. Whitmore steered the conversation toward me. How was I sleeping? How was my work going? Had I been feeling like myself lately? He was smooth about it. He asked the questions the way you do when you're building a clinical narrative, and he probably thought I didn't notice the structure of it. I answered everything pleasantly and slightly vaguely, and watched him take mental notes. At 9 o'clock, my aunt suggested I might want to turn in early. I looked tired, she said. She said it with her hand on my arm. She said the guest room was all made up. She said she just wanted me to feel taken care of. I said I'd love that. I said I was exhausted. I said goodnight to everyone and I went upstairs. I did not go to sleep. I sat on the edge of the guest bed with my phone and I texted Gretchen, I'm in, going as planned. Give me until morning. Then I took the documents out of the interior pocket of my bag and laid them on the bedspread, and I looked at them for a while. I thought about my mother. I thought about the fact that she had kept a fireproof box in her closet, because she'd known, on some level, that she needed to protect what she'd built. I thought about how I was her daughter in all the ways that mattered and I was going to act like it. At 6 in the morning I was showered and dressed and sitting at the kitchen table with coffee when my aunt came downstairs. She stopped when she saw me. You're up early, she said. I slept wonderfully, I told her. I feel completely like myself. Better than I have in months, honestly. I paused. I wanted to catch you before Dr. Whitmore came down, actually. I wanted to talk to you. She came to the table. She sat across from me. Her face was doing its most careful version of warm and open. I put the envelope on the table between us. I know about the conservatorship filing, I said. She went very still. I know about the physician declaration, and I know the license number on it expired 4 years ago. I know about what you asked my cousin to sign. I kept my voice even. I had practiced this. I also know that the timing isn't a coincidence. I turned 27 in 5 weeks, and after that, everything my mother left me is legally and entirely mine. She started to speak. I kept going. I have a letter from my own doctor, dated yesterday, with a full cognitive evaluation. I have copies of everything you filed. I have an accountant who has documented the attempted access to my financial records under false pretenses. I folded my hands on the table, and I have a retired paralegal in the city who has instructions to contact the county clerk and your attorney this morning if she doesn't hear from me by 9. My aunt's face changed. It happened in stages, like watching a stage set being struck after a show. First the warmth dropped, then the concern, until what was left was something much older and much more honest. You don't understand what it costs, she said. Her voice was flat now. To maintain all of this. The house, the taxes, the upkeep. Your mother walked away from her share of this family's legacy and left me to manage everything alone, and then she left you. She left me what was hers, I said. She paid you fairly for her share. 20 years ago. In writing, which you agreed to, she should have. It should have stayed in the family. It should have stayed together. It is in the family, I said. I'm family. She looked at me for a long moment. I looked back. I'm not going to pursue this, I said. I'm not calling the police this morning. I'm not filing a complaint with the medical board, not today. What I am going to do is drive home, call Gretchen, and make sure that every piece of this is documented and on file with my attorney, and the conservatorship petition is going to be withdrawn, today, before 9 o'clock. I picked up the envelope and put it back in my bag. That's the only version of this where it ends cleanly. She didn't say anything. I heard footsteps on the stairs. Dr. Whitmore, coming down for the day. I stood up, picked up my coffee cup, rinsed it in the sink. I was almost to the hallway when my aunt said my name. I turned. She looked older than she had last night. Or maybe she just looked like herself for the first time since I'd arrived. Your mother, she said. She always did trust you completely. Yeah, I said. She did. I picked up my bag from the hallway. I stepped out the front door into the cold morning air. The lake gray and flat in the early light, the pines very still. I sat in my car and called Petra. Then I called Gretchen. Then I sat for a minute and let myself feel it. All of it. The grief and the anger and the exhaustion, and underneath all of that, very quiet, something that felt like solid ground. The conservatorship petition was withdrawn by 10 o'clock. Gretchen forwarded me the filing confirmation. I was already an hour down the highway by then, windows down despite the cold. The kind of cold that wakes you up and reminds you that you're in your own body, and the body is fine and you are fine and the road is in front of you, and it goes forward. My cousin called me 2 weeks later. She didn't apologize exactly, but she explained some things, and I listened, and I told her I needed more time, and she said she understood. I don't know yet what we'll be to each other on the other side of this, but I know what I won't do. I won't let someone else's fear of being left behind turn into a cage for me. I won't call it love when it's really just possession. My mother knew the difference. She spent a lifetime protecting the things she'd built, so that I could inherit not just the money, but the principle behind it, that what belongs to you is worth defending, quietly and carefully, with documentation and witnesses and your own 2 hands. I keep the fireproof box now. I know exactly what's in it. And for the first time since she died, when I think about the future, I don't feel the ground shifting under me. I feel it hold.